What's up everybody and welcome back to the channel. Patch 1.03 for Elden Ring dropped a few hours ago. This is fantastic news. It actually came a lot faster or earlier than I thought it was going to happen. There's a bunch of things that were changed in the patch. I'm not going to go through all of them because, as the thumbnail suggests, we are here specifically looking at Mimic Tear and what has been done to that summon. However, the patch has a bunch of other good things going for it, namely a big one being that arcane scaling has now been fixed, so weapons like Rivers of Blood are fantastic now and scale accordingly. So if you were avoiding using that sword before, or rather katana before, now is definitely a good time to dust it off and start using it because it works perfectly now because the arcane scaling is 100%. But we are here to discuss Mimic Tear, and specifically this part in the patch notes where it mentions decreased the damage of spirits summoned when using the item Mimic Tear Ash and change the spirit behavior pattern. So that last part is pretty interesting. Now let's move over here to the footage, and luckily I was working on a testing video, so I have some pre-patch Mimic Tear footage and some post-patch footage. And basically what I want to explain is the small test that I did here. And this is New Game Plus 1, so the very first New Game Plus after you finish the game originally. And I'm testing Mimic Tear on the Tree Sentinel. My character is exactly the same level on both sides, so pre and post patch. Exactly the same items equipped, exactly the same talismans equipped, exactly the same stat distribution, and everything is configured to be exactly the same so as to not pollute any of the results. So as we are running these two side by side, the good news right off the bat is Mimic Tear still performs very well, arguably probably the best out of all of the summons in the game. On both sides we can see that we are dealing a fair bit of damage to Tree Sentinel, and as we get closer to the end you'll notice that both times we are actually able to completely leave Tree Sentinel alone and Mimic Tear is able to still win the fight. However, you are noticing, or at the very least if you slow down the footage and look at it, you can see that two different things here I think are happening. And of course I'll be doing a lot more testing on this in the coming days to bring you guys, you know, like let's say a more in-depth analysis. But right off the bat, it seems like post-patch, so patch 1.3, Mimic Tear seems to be slightly less aggressive. Now this is of course something that made the summon very good, is the fact that of course it benefits from all of the equipment that you carry and all of your stats, but the summon seemed to have also been extremely aggressive and really getting into enemies' face and dumping abilities on them and using stuff. So that seems to have been toned down a little bit, but more specifically also it seems like the damage has been also scaled down a little bit. So if you look at the first 3 to 4 hits on the pre-patch side, you'll notice that the damage numbers are quite a little, you know, higher, and also the frequency at which the Ash is actually, or the summon is engaging Tree Sentinel is also sort of like a lot faster. You have those first 4 hits hitting in 8 seconds, whereas when we look at the post-patch side, those first 4 hits are hitting in 12 seconds. Now this is just anecdotal stuff that I'm making comments on because of course there's a lot of variables here. It depends on which move Tree Sentinel opens with and if it knocks down the summon at the beginning. So really just taking two little examples like this and comparing it to each other, we can extrapolate a lot, but you have to really test it over time, try different scenarios, try different bosses, try different angles of attack and all of these things. So this is basically just doing a kind of like an apples to apples conversion, but just to see where we stack. Now, again, as mentioned, both are actually able to win the fight, but when we get to the end, we realize that post-patch, it now takes Mimic Tear significantly longer to actually get Tree Sentinel down. Pre-nerf, we could see this fight taking about 50 seconds and Mimic Tear winning, whereas now post-nerf, and with the latest version of the game, this takes all the way up to 1:36, 37 seconds, which is basically about double the time. We also notice that Mimic Tear takes a hell of a lot more damage. And again, I do want to mention that there can be variables to this fight. I've done this a whole bunch of times, and sometimes you know, the summon takes a lot more damage than other times due to just an unfavorable set of abilities, or Tree Sentinel basically dumping a lot of damage in a row instead of, you know, being staggered or anything like that. TLDR, the last point that I want to make is that Mimic Tear is still a really good summon, and if you compare these two next to each other, you can see that it still performs exceptionally well, especially against an aggressive bully like boss like Tree Sentinel. But in the coming days, I will be sort of testing this more and also testing against other summons and seeing, now that the playing field has been leveled a little bit, if there are any other summons that sort of rise to the top. But that's it for the video. Thank you so much for watching, especially if you made it this far. Let me know in the comments down below any findings that you might have or anything that you'd like me to test, because that's what I do on this channel. So like and subscribe if that's the sort of thing that you like seeing in the games that you enjoy. But other than that, it's just super important to me that you have a fantastic morning, a great afternoon, and a super awesome evening wherever you are in the world. And until next video, fucking cheers.
They want the best of me now, best of me now, best of me now, best of me. They want the best of me now, best of me now, best of me now, best of me.